We are going to talk a little bit about golf in a second, but I want to get your thoughts on a couple of college-ish things first, including something you and I haven't talked about yet, the notion that the Big 12 is potentially dipping into private equity to help close the gap between the Big 12 and the two rich leagues, the SEC and the Big 10. What are your thoughts on private equity dipping their toe or putting their foot in college athletics?
College athletics has been run in a way that is not financially sound.
No way.
College athletics. What'd you used to call it? A no crap exclusive?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. There's a lot of those today, by the way.
Yeah. I think that there's also part of the way that college sports needs to be run that should not be financially sound. And it's because we deal with emotions.
Right.
Because the whole idea of why college sports is part of the American sports culture is emotions. It is your emotional tie to a place where either you attended it or you grew up as a fan or you lived near the area for ways that cannot be computed on a spreadsheet. You are willing to give of yourself, your time, your energy, and yes, even your money when it comes to tickets or merchandise or anything of the like, donations for those who are in a different tax bracket. I think that if you try to take the larger college sports model and you hand it to people that are only based in ROI and the spreadsheet approach to life, then you're going to lose even more of the soul than you would argue that we've already seen continue to be stripped away as the money has gone up. So
I'm not even sure we could lose more of the soul of college sports. I'm not trying to disagree because I don't disagree. But I'm not. I think we have. I think the argument that we're losing the soul of college sports is over. We can't use that anymore. I think that just a real world example is that, private equity, they demand their pound of flesh in return, and if you can't give that to them, they're ultimately going to pull their money and then ask for their return or demand their return back, which is ultimately going to end your league anyway.
The soul is the fact that there are still on college campuses ways that revenue athletes interact with non-revenue athletes. And I think that if you were only coming into this with a financial approach, you're just getting rid of anything that does not generate revenue. And, I know that we tell these tales about how football players never leave the facility and there's no interaction, but I've seen otherwise. I have seen, Olympic sports athletes and revenue sports athletes continue to enjoy the fact that they are living among a campus community, both representing their schools. They obviously are very different in terms of the attention they get and the revenue that their sport generates. But I think we'd only have more separation from that because when I think about the soul of the general college sports world, it's that there are, look, baseball. Is baseball going to make the cut for a private equity?
There's a real, a serious conversation about the future of softball.
Yeah. So when I would say that when I'm thinking about soul, I'm thinking about more the idea of within an athletics department, the connection that while the revenue sports continue to be separated, I do think that there's still a tie there that would be stripped away. There is other approaches to this though. Private equity, you're going to give them some ownership.
Yeah.
Private capital, that is an influx of cash, which then the return comes not based on the ownership, but the return comes based on a percentage of growth. There is also maybe the Big 12's, baby steps into this is the idea of, selling off the naming rights. I was on an Arizona podcast and, Arizona's just showing up to the Big 12.
Yep.
And they were saying, look, if it means $3 or $4 million more in Arizona's pocket, you can call us whatever. You call it whatever conference you want. We don't have any connection
Phillips,
to this.
Right? The Phillips 66 Big
Phillips 66 conference.
I talked about that. Here's because I think we should all accept that that's about to happen, right? I think the ACC, I think every school in the ACC should use their uniforms as advertising billboards. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. For people who get bent out of shape, I wonder, do you watch NASCAR? Because I bet some of them do. Not all of them. I don't. But or if you watch football, and we see advertisements on helmets in hockey, and it's starting to be more commonplace in sports. So that's going to happen in college sports. Advertisement on the field is going to happen. So I think all of that should be part of the mix. My only question is, it doesn't get you anywhere close to where the Big 12, rather where the SEC and the Big 10 are.
So, I mean, you have to try.
No, but I'm sure you can't really bridge the gap. You at best, you could probably create, and I'm probably overselling it here, at best, through different revenue streams, you could probably create a $10 million bump, right? But we're talking about a gap that's probably going to end up being between anywhere from $40 to $60 million between where the ACC and the Big 12 are and where the SEC and the Big 10 are.
So here's what comes to mind. This is something that Bud Elliott brought up on the Cover 3 podcast recently. How many of these conference commissioners are still going to be in charge of these conferences by the time the revenue gap has ballooned to $40 million? Florida State is pointing to the projections of what it's going to be moving forward,
right,
and how we're going to be $40 million behind. Then, I think that all the conference leadership is looking for short-term solutions. I can talk. And they are only going to be giving short-term answers because they have no answer for the long term, and they're not going to be around for the long term. But if they can leave and say, I generated all this thing for you right now, then even though they've only been able to take about a fourth of what the gap's going to be way down the line, at least they have done something in terms of increasing revenue where revenue was not once coming.
And the other thing, we're talking with Chip Patterson. We normally do this on Wednesday, but this is my Wednesday, so I moved it. But as soon as the ACC or the Big 12 do that, then the SEC and the Big 10 will do it. And so the gap remains the same. So we're not really bridging the gap. But again, I keep pointing to the fact that it doesn't make a difference how big my neighbor's boat is. Mine's pretty big too. I should be able to make do, but that's not the way these people look at it. You couldn't really allow Florida State to do it on their own, could you?
What do you mean, to allow Florida State
to sell their own naming rights to? I mean, they could sell their own naming rights to their football stadium, their baseball stadium, their basketball arena.
That's part of the plan.
Right, but
that's been expressly laid out, this Osceola project.
Right.
And the Osceola project and all the documents associated with are what kind of tipped everyone off to where Florida State's long-term thinking is in this. That's where the exploration of the investment from other places, of capital from other places. And Drew Weatherford, the Florida State trustee and former quarterback, that's what he's pushing. He's not looking for a private equity investment of an outside hedge fund that's going to own a piece, but it is an influx of capital of which they get it back based on the growth. And the growth comes in part from selling off the naming rights to Doak Campbell Stadium. And I think that that's something that is going to happen in the next 5 to 6 years and has been part of the way that they look at their own financial future. So, yeah, I mean, the Miami Hurricanes were playing in a stadium whose name was named after a Jimmy Buffett beer. And that was not that long ago. All right. Land Shark Stadium.
That stadium's had 17 different names.
I'm just saying that FBS and ACC games were played in a football stadium named after RIP Jimmy Buffett's beer. So let's not act like, the naming rights aspect of this is anything that should concern anyone in terms of, the overall loss of tradition.
I'm 100% with you. As I said before, I believe that we should have advertisements on uniforms, on courts, on fields, We already have advertisements on the outfield walls of stadiums or beyond the outfield walls. It should not be an issue at all.
All right, one final thing on this, because you said
Sure.
I think the Big Ten and the ACC and the SEC would follow.
Yes.
I could also see them going with the Masters route. Remember when the Masters just said, "Fine,
Right.
no commercials. That's fine."
Do you really?
Like, I could see the Big Ten be like, "No, it's
Really?
okay."
So you're saying that the Big Ten would choose then to somehow have some moral high ground? That's fine.
It was here, let's go through. If Big 12 sells to Phillips 66, if Globe Life gets Conference USA, if New York Life gets the ACC, if you just sort of run through and you see them all getting gobbled up, I could see the Big Ten looking down and being like, not for us. Because Big Ten, for a long time, has had zero to do with the number of schools in the conference and everything to do with the idea of what a Big Ten school is.
Yeah.
And that's being broken a little bit with some of the West Coast additions, but the majority of the schools in the Big Ten, all 18 of them, are what your mind thinks of as a Big Ten school. So I could see the Big Ten hanging on to that based on the brand value of what a Big Ten school is.
That is fantastic. All right, now let's talk a little golf in our remaining moments. First, you and I sat together 8 days ago, and we wrote off Rory McIlroy. No chance. We were right, Chip. Do you feel like? Do you feel like we were right?
I am. That was one of the more rewarding and engaging weeks that I've had covering sports.
By the way, your piece on Bryson was great.
Thank you.
And it was true. And maybe down the road, this will be remembered as Bryson's U.S. Open. But I think it's going to take some time to get there, because I still think the number one story coming out of it was Rory had it and he threw it away.
So two things. I was just behind the NBC cameraman about 15 feet from Bryson under the magnolia tree when he had the ball against the root.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And when he asked the rules official if he could get TIO, I said, "Oh God, please no." Because we had known Rory had missed the putt.
Right.
And if he had gotten relief from that spot, then it would have looked like a cheap win. I am satisfied that he had to hit off the root.
Oh, yeah.
And he had to hit an amazing bunker shot so that, to your point, yes, Rory lost it, but Bryson had to go and win it.
Yes.
And so I'm glad for the way that we tell the story of the 2024 U.S. Open, and one of the more thrilling back nines that we could have. Now, when Rory was bouncing down the fairway, I mean, and that wee lad was bouncing. I mean, he had his chest out. He had a 2-stroke lead. And Bryson even said after the round, he said, I could hear the Rory chants in it. I thought, and I'm doing an impression of him just to let you know the cadence and the way that he explained it. He said, "Oh no."
Yeah.
And that was the way Bryson described it. And he knew, he was like, "Oh no, here we go. I'm going to end up on the wrong side of one of the greatest talents of this generation. Here we go." And so, the way that it all fell apart for Rory, I mean, buddy, just his shot on 17. I'm just on the greenside bunker on the left, standing on the other side of that greenside bunker. And I was like, buddy, just landed in the middle of the green below the hole. Why'd you try to take everything? I mean, the decision making, it was not just the missed putts. The decision making
on 15.
The final 4 holes, the decision making was just absolutely mental error after mental error, and they compounded against each other. Something
that we haven't talked about relatively on the show. I haven't seen Golf Channel talk about it. Bless Rory's heart. He's got his best friend from childhood, Harry Diamond, on the bag. Go get yourself a legit PGA Tour caddy, because on the 15th hole, if Steve Williams was carrying for Rory McIlroy, the club that Rory hit would have been somewhere in the trees. It wouldn't have been available to him. Steve Williams would have said, "Nah, man, you are hitting something that cannot get over this green. We're just not going to allow you." By the way, Rory hit 3-wood off the 18th tee all week long until Sunday, and he hit driver. Got himself, it wasn't the worst drive we've ever seen, but he got a bad break. Not really a bad break. He hit it off the fairway. It's not really a bad break. Run the risk. So there were decisions that were made that were incorrect that I think a better caddy would have helped. But honestly, you make the putt. You make the 2.5-foot putt on 16. Honestly, I think he wins the Open if he simply makes that putt. But I think that's when the wheels came off.
And the other moment that I saw up close is when they're going shot for shot. He's standing on the 18th tee box right behind the 17 green that he just missed to the left. And what did Bryson do? He dropped it where you should have dropped it.
Right.
Middle of the green, below the hole, place goes nuts. He pulls the driver, puts it in a bad spot. And it's just, from that moment, I was like, okay. And Bryson missed the birdie putt, but he was at least playing with, he could see everything that was happening. And that to me is what is so exciting about Pinehurst as an anchor site, is we are always going to talk about what that back nine is like, where all the different golfers are going to be able to see each other at all the different spots and hear the roars, and just the way it's so compact just made it really, really special.
All right, final thing for you, Chip Patterson, my friend, Cover 3 podcast. I love talking golf with you. Is it as criminal as I believe it is that we are sending a U.S. Olympic golf team of 4 players and none of them are named Bryson DeChambeau?
100%. Missed opportunity of the highest rating. And when you've got an obvious, because this was, look, hey, let's really get ourselves in trouble. This was one aspect of the Caitlin Clark discourse that I would always follow up with. Okay, so who are you kicking off the team?
Oh, I got an easy one.
Well, for us, I've got an easy one. Punt Wyndham back home.
Yeah, he's not that guy right now.
He is no, you get Wyndham Clark off, you get Bryson on, and look, all the rest of it is fine. Like Colin, Xander, Scotty, great. I can tell you can make that argument, but Wyndham Clark is the obvious sore thumb here, and Bryson DeChambeau would just bring would bring amazing quality golf, as he has one of the best score to par through 3 majors of anyone in this major season. He's been awesome at all 3. And then, just also the way that he would embrace that opportunity to be a showman on that stage.
Be a tremendous ambassador for it. The Olympic team is chosen by official world golf ranking, which to me is kind of, well, we don't really want to have a committee, so how wrong could they be? But it's a 2-year rolling system, the official world golf ranking. So Wyndham Clark is in many ways still living off of last year. Yes, he won a PGA Tour event. He won Pebble Beach this year, I believe. So it's not like he's been a bad player, but he hasn't been close to the level of DeChambeau. And honestly, if you took the first 3 majors, Scheffler, Schauffele, Morikawa, DeChambeau, by far the 4 best American players.
Right.
It should have been an easy one, and especially knowing what we knew from last year, when Brooks Koepka nearly qualified on points for the Ryder Cup team. He was chosen eventually, even though he wasn't one of the top 6, by Zach Johnson, because how could you not, right? But based on last year, there was enough time for the USOC to say, you know what? We should probably think about leaving ourselves an out. But why would you pay attention to that? This is all in retrospect. But it's criminal, honestly. And I'm not a huge Bryson guy. I think you know that. I appreciated what he did. I love how he embraced the crowd and the moment and his ability as a showman, all of that. And I think what he did post-championship was tremendous. But I'm not a huge Bryson DeChambeau fan. But man, does he deserve to be on that team.
Yep. Hey, if it is supposed to represent our country's best and brightest in the summer in the major season of 2024, Bryson has been one of the 4 best American golfers, and it's a big time missed opportunity to try to promote, in an event that is still new, to try to promote the United States presence in that event.
By the way, I'll let you go right here. He's 10th in the world in the official world golf rankings, right? Bryson DeChambeau.
Now.
He's 10th, right? You have whatever your total points are divided by 40 because it's 20 per year. And the number is always 40, the divisor. He's played in 10 official events for the official world golf ranking and is still 10th.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll give some free pub here. I think we should use the data golf rankings for all these decisions moving forward.
I think he's 5th in the official data golf rankings. He's the 4th ranked American.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would make more sense.
I would say, for those who are not aware, data golf does take into consideration the live results because you still gain strokes against the field, and certainly puts a bonus on what you're able to do at the major championships. And Bryson's right there, man.
Belongs in the team. Chip Patterson, you would be my 5th choice if we were taking 5. I will talk to you very soon, my friend. I appreciate your time.
Sounds good. Y'all be well.